Hello, dear students. You are welcome in this video. Dear students, we have started a series on Indian knowledge system, and in the last video, we talked about the Indian knowledge system and its aspects or key areas or focus areas. In this video, we are going to talk about the meaning of Indian knowledge system, or what is IKS, and its definition. So, we'll understand this definition or meaning based on different types of aspects or based on different types of areas or key aspects of Indian knowledge system. So here we have a book called Introduction to Indian Knowledge System, which is composed by Dr. Rohidas Nitonde, who is the chairman of Board of Studies in English in Swami Ramanand Tirth Marathoda University, Nanded. So you can consult this book and have more information or more access to Indian knowledge system. So let's understand what is the meaning of Indian knowledge system. So we'll discuss a few definitions, and after that we will understand the key aspects which define Indian knowledge system. So here we have very first definition which is given in the same book. So this definition is very simple and it gives us a comprehensive overview of Indian knowledge system. So let me read the definition. The term Indian knowledge system means IKS refers to the rich and diverse set of traditional knowledge, practices and cultural insights that have been developed and refined in the Indian subcontinent over thousands of years. So here are a few words important in this definition. This definition directly talks about the rich and diverse set of traditional knowledge. So Indian knowledge system is nothing but a set of knowledge, and this knowledge is traditional, which is found and developed in the Indian subcontinent over thousands of years. Now, Indian subcontinent is a term which refers to the geographical area, and here you can see this is the geographical area of Indian subcontinent. It does not only include India, but we have the countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So this area is particularly called as Indian subcontinent, and in this particular region we have a vast body of knowledge developed over the years, over millennia or over thousands of years, and that vast body is referred to as Indian knowledge system, in which we also have practices and cultural insights, and all these things are considered as Indian knowledge system. This is one of the definitions. I hope you got the idea of this definition. Now let's move to the another definition, and here I drawn this definition from google.com. If you search or if you ask to chat GPT, it will answer what is Indian knowledge system. For our understanding, let's just expand the scope of Indian knowledge system. Here we have the Indian knowledge system. IKS is a broad term that refers to the knowledge that has evolved in India and includes a wide range of subjects like mathematics, science, technology, medicine, astronomy, architecture, philosophy, arts, language, literature, and culture and social practices. So all these things are included in Indian knowledge system. So it is again a vast body of knowledge developed over the years, over thousands of years, which include we have knowledge, ancient knowledge of mathematics, we have ancient knowledge of science, we have technology, we have ancient knowledge of medicine, which we found in Ayurveda or the systems like Unani or Siddha. Then we have astronomy, then we have architecture. If you look at the different types of temples built over the years in India, you will find a very different architecture there. Then we have philosophical texts, classical texts, we have arts, we have classical music, classical dance, different types of forms of arts. All we are going to explore this. So this is a very simple definition in which we have an expanded scope to Indian knowledge system. Now let's understand the meaning of Indian knowledge system based on different types of aspects which define or which gives us a proper or holistic meaning of the Indian knowledge system. The very first aspect here we have cultural and traditional wisdom. So this is very important in Indian knowledge system when we understand Indian knowledge system. So what is there? There is nothing but the passing of knowledge, beliefs and practices. For example, we have the Vedas, we have ancient scriptures, we have hymns, philosophy and rituals. So all these different types of things are there in cultural and traditional wisdom, which we pass generation to generation. If we think about Indian knowledge system, we must think about the Vedas, the ancient scriptures or classical texts, the hymns, philosophy and rituals. All this gives us a sketch or a holistic view of Indian knowledge system, which is completely based on the cultural and traditional wisdom. We find that cultural and traditional wisdom is there in these kind of texts. The second aspect here we have holistic knowledge. And what is there in holistic knowledge system? It integrates different types of domains. For example, we have health, agriculture, arts, we have architecture and philosophy. Now, when we think about Indian knowledge system, we have two broad perspectives. We can think about it from a very particular perspective of the branch. For example, we have health, we have agriculture, or in the second perspective we can think it as the integration or amalgamation of all these domains. For example, these domains intersect and gives us a balanced view about the Indian knowledge system. So here we have the integration of all these branches of study or branches of knowledge in Indian knowledge system or IKS. So this is nothing but the holistic knowledge system. Let's understand the third aspect, and the third aspect is sustainable and ecological practices. So what kind of practices were there? The sustainable or ecological practices, or the practices which are concerned with environment. So here we have harmony with nature. So we find that we worship nature in different forms, and this is nothing but a practice in which we sustain, or in which we uh, show our concern about nature, and we preserve nature in different forms. So here we have harmony with nature. Then we have traditional agricultural practices like crop rotation. For example, this is a particular example from agriculture. And in agriculture, we when we do farming, we what we do, we take crops on the basis of rotation. For example, if we are taking groundnut crop in the first season, in the second season we change that crop and we take another crop. So again we have intercropping. Means this practice is very innovative, and it was a very we can say that beneficial practice for farmers, intercropping. And this is also a part of Indian knowledge system, and this practice was there in ancient time, but in the middle ages or now we forgot that practice, and once again we are revisiting and we are reusing this practice to sustain the farmers and to improve the farming. Then we have organic farming. This is also a very important sustainable and ecological practice, which we find very helpful and beneficial, not only for farmers, but for all of us, because it is from the point of view of ecology or environment. The fourth aspect here, we have scientific and mathematical contributions. As we all know that the invention of zero and the advancement in algebra and geometry, and some of the scientists or the names like Brahmagupta, Aryabhatta and Bhaskara, which are world famous, and they have very we can say that a vast contribution they gave in the development of mathematics and scientific point of view. So invention of zero is important, and advancement in different types of areas. So this is also one of the perspective, or this is a key aspect from which we can understand the very meaning of Indian knowledge system. So Indian knowledge system is nothing but, as you can see, that these all branches are grouped in Indian knowledge system, and it has become an umbrella term nowadays, a buzz term. Everybody talks about IKS. Whoever is studying for UG after NEP 2020, he's talking about IKS, and IKS nothing but the very holistic and umbrella term which covers all these aspects. Let's move to the next aspect, and next aspect is number 5, spiritual and philosophical insights. Now, what is it? It is nothing but nature of existence. So the Indian philosophy, or the philosophy of Hindu texts, or the philosophy of Indian classical texts, which talks about the coexistence theory, which also talks about the very existence of human being, the relationship of human being to nature, the relationship of human being, and the very role of human being in the whole cosmos. So these all philosophical things we find here. You have in Upanishads, which is the basis of Hindu religion. Again, we have Pali scriptures in which we find the very knowledge of life. When we think about these Pali scriptures, we find these Pali scriptures or Pali classical texts give us the knowledge of how to live, and very rules and laws and ethics and ethical practices which must be followed by human beings. So all these things we find in Indian spiritual and philosophical texts. Based on this aspect, we can understand the very meaning of Indian knowledge system. The sixth aspect here, we have artistic and literary heritage. So we all know about the literature in India. We have the Ramayana and Mahabharata, the great and grand epics which are world famous. Again, we also have music forms, different types of classical music forms. We have dance forms like Kathak, or again we have there are 64 art forms, or we generally call it as 64 kalas or 64 art forms. So different types of forms we have, and these forms also need to be rejuvenated in the Indian knowledge system. And this is one of the objectives of Indian knowledge system, to rejuvenate all these forms. And this form, because these forms are beneficial to human being, and it is a cultural, historical and traditional heritage of India, and hence we need to understand Indian knowledge system from this perspective. So this is the sixth aspect, artistic and literary heritage. Next, we have seventh aspect, that is legal and political thought. When we think about Indian knowledge system, we must think about legal and political thought. And we have a very prominent text called Arthashastra, which is written by Kautilya, or we generally call him as Chanakya. So Kautilya talks about governance, law, ethical conduct and ethical practices in Arthashastra. So it is a text based on the statecraft, and it gives us different types of opinions and different types of knowledge, information about how to govern, how to implement law, and how to do ethical practices. So all these things we find in Arthashastra. This is probably the first ever text in the world which is completely based on the political economy or governance or Arthashastra. The next aspect to understand IKS is health and wellness. So this is also very important, because we know yoga, we know sadhana, we know different types of forms of well-being or wellness. For example, we have the concept of holistic health. Preventive care is important. Natural remedies, for example, we have the systems like Siddha system, Unani systems of we can say that Unani system uses herbs and natural substances to cure a patient. So these systems are related to medicine and health or well-being of a person or human being. So we are also thinking about these practices in Indian knowledge system. We need to understand these practices, without which we cannot have a prolific or comprehensive meaning of Indian knowledge system. So Indian knowledge system, as I have already told you, that it is an umbrella term in which we find different types of aspects, and this is one of the aspect, the health and well-being. Now here we have last aspect, or there are many aspects, but we have taken prominent aspect to understand Indian knowledge system. The ninth aspects, or the ninth key point here, we have knowledge preservation and transmission. So all these, how did we know about all this knowledge? The answer is very simple. This knowledge is transmitted by generation to generation. So this is what we know about our cultural or historical heritage or the Indian knowledge system. And we have a very grand or great oral traditions in our culture. You go in India anywhere, you find there are oral culture. So knowledge is transmitted orally from one generation to another generation. Again, we have a very great parampara or tradition which is called as Guru Shishya or master pupil tradition. Through this tradition, we also transmit knowledge from one generation to the next generation. And this is what, how we came to know about all these systems. We came to know about the Indian knowledge system. So these are some of the ways. Again, we have classical texts. For example, we have Vedas, Upanishads, Pali scriptures, Pali classical texts through which we retain the knowledge. We have the knowledge of ancient traditions, ancient culture, ancient history, and ancient knowledge very particularly, and we transmit this knowledge to the next generation. So I hope you got the idea of Indian knowledge system, its meaning. So meaning is very simple, that it is an umbrella term in which we find different types of aspects, right from political thought to the well-being or wellness, or again the transmission of knowledge. So different types of aspects are included here in this system or Indian knowledge system. So if you have any problem, any query, you can comment below in the comment section. I will answer to your comment. So thank you very much for watching the complete video. Let's meet in the next video.